Friday morning due to pressure from declines in comparable oils. The March canola contract loses $7.10 at $616 per ton, and the May contract gives up $7.40 at $621 per ton. The Chicago soy complex and European rapeseed are pulling back. The Malaysian palm oil market remains closed for a holiday. Very slight declines in global crude oil prices are putting some additional pressure on vegetable oils. Sluggish canola exports remain an issue. The Canadian Grain Commission reports canola exports of 34,600 tons for the week ending January 21st are virtually the same as the previous week. The year-to-date of 3.44 million tons is 1.36 million behind last year's pace. The Canadian dollar is higher on Friday morning. The loonie improves to 74.33 US cents compared to Thursday's close of 74.1. The United States Department of Agriculture reports a private sale for 100,000 tons of old crop soy meal to unknown destinations. Reports say Houthi attacks in the Red Sea are diverting more grain vessels. So far this month, 3.9 million tons of grain have been diverted from the Red Sea to around the Cape of Good Hope. Normally about 7 million tons of grain per month go through the Red Sea. China is set to speak with its ally Iran, which backs the Houthi rebels, about reining in the attacks. The Buenos Aires Grain Exchange ups its call on Argentina soybeans and corn. Soybean rise 2.5 million tons at 52.5 million. Corn is up 1.5 million tons at 55 million. Also, the exchange lowers Argentina soybeans to 44% good to excellent and the corn down to 41% good to excellent. While Argentina is forecast to remain hot and dry for next week, the northern two-thirds of Brazil are to get rain. Rounding off prices at the Chicago Board of Trade, soybean futures are lower on Friday morning. The March contract retreats 9 cents at $12.14 per bushel. March soy oil sheds almost 0.2 cents at 46.38 cents per pound. March soy meal loses $2.90 at $355.30 per short ton. Corn is lower, with its March contract down 5.5 cents at $4.46 per bushel. Chicago oats are lower as well, with its March contract shedding 2 cents at $3.63. The U.S. wheat complex is weaker, with Chicago March dropping 16.5 cents at $5.96. Kansas City March falls 12 cents at $6.25. And Minneapolis March is down 8 cents at $7.01. That's a look at the ICE futures and the Chicago markets for Friday morning, January 26th. For MarketsFarm.com in Winnipeg, I'm Glenn Halleck.
Take command of productivity with the New Holland T5 Series tractor available at Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John. With 4 easy-to-use transmissions, fuel-efficient engines, and a choice of comfortable agronomic cabs, it's easy to find the model that's right for you. These are heavy-duty but nimble utility tractors with 4-wheel drive and big power to help you do a wide range of jobs, from loader work to speedy transport. See a T5 tractor today at Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John and take command.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Welcome to the show. A little later on today, we're going to be chatting with Fort St. John Fire Department Deputy Chief Matt Troiano. The department was pretty busy in January thanks to the extreme cold we were suffering here. So we'll chat a bit about that. We'll also talk a bit about the stats from last year in general, and then a bit about the year ahead for the department. But first, the Fort Nelson Handgames Society is hosting a tournament next weekend, which is doubling, as I understand it, as a fundraiser for a local who was injured in an ATV accident. To tell us all about Handgames and this tournament coming up, and even how you can get involved in it if you'd like, we're joined now by the president of the Fort Nelson Handgames Society, Ryan Dickie. Ryan, welcome to Moose Talks.
Good morning, Dub. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and all that good stuff. So I thought we'd first start with Handgames. I know I've heard this term. We had an article written about it recently at energeticcity.ca. But if somebody's hearing this for the first time, tell us a bit about what Handgames are.
Yeah, so Dene traditional hand games have been played across Dene territory. So essentially, the Northwest Territories, Alberta, Northeast British Columbia, the Yukon, and it's been, from what I understand, it's been played by our people, Dene people, for as long as we can really remember.
Wow.
And essentially, it is a traditional guessing game, a very complex guessing game, where each player, for this event, I'll speak to how we're going to run it, but it'll be 6 players per side, and each player will have a token, and the object is to essentially conceal that token in one of 2 hands, and you go under a blanket, pick which hand you're going to hide it in, bring your arms, present them to the opposing team, which designates the shooter. And that shooter will use a variety of different hand signals to indicate which hand he wants each opposing player to expose. And if they expose a hand that's empty, that's considered a point. That player earns a point or a stick for their team. So essentially, it's a complex guessing game where the object is to conceal an object from the opposing team. And when you do that successfully, you earn a stick. So for this tournament, we're going to be playing with 15 sticks. And the first team to collect all 15 sticks to their side of the mats wins that match. And it'll be a best of 3 per game. So any game, it varies in terms of length. Some games I've seen end in 15 minutes. And I've also watched games that the exchange goes back and forth. And they can run up to 2 hours in length. So it is a pretty complex game, but once you get the gist of it, it's really, really entertaining with the drummers behind each team, and it really energizes the game. And you'll see a lot of taunting and a lot of different moves from different players, and it's a really exciting event to watch.
Oh, it sounds fascinating. So essentially, the shooter is trying to guess what hand, I guess, doesn't have, reveal the hand that doesn't have the token in it, then, correct?
Yeah, they're guessing, they're shooting to indicate which hand they think or they want. They're hoping that the rock or the token might be in. So their job is to guess and basically catch the opposing players by having them expose the hand that has the token in it. And when they guess wrong and it's a hand that doesn't have the token in it, that player that successfully concealed that object from the shooter earns a stick.
Okay. Now, if there's 15 sticks and you have to get to 15 first, are you kind of taking it from the other team then? Or is there kind of a pool of up to, I guess, 29 sticks, and the first team that just gets to 15 wins the match?
Yeah, so that's a good point to make. All 15 sticks start in the middle, and essentially the first stick is a one-on-one versus between the 2 captains. And then when one of the 2 captains wins that first stick, all 6 players from that team go down, and then that's where the exchange starts to happen.
I see. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so 15 sticks in total. Yeah.
I'm going to have to find a way to watch this. It sounds fascinating. Yeah. I mean, is this something you've been playing kind of your whole life? Was it something, some of the elders in your community showed you how to play, they were playing it already, and you picked it up that way?
Yeah, so that's one really unique thing about our community, and really why the Handgames Society was started by my brother and a few others in 2018 was because essentially, growing up in Fort Nelson in our community, I don't remember really having hand games as an option as a youth in the community. It wasn't something that we played a lot of. Some of our elders speak to times, in the 1950s and things like that, when we were living at the old fort, where the men would go out and play hand games. But there's been a really big resurgence across Dene territory, across the north, and I would say the last 10 to 15 years. And really in the last 5 years, Fort Nelson's been really putting themselves on the map in the Hand Games community. And it all started with the first Hand Games Society event in 2018, which was actually the first time I had played in years. And with the encouragement of my older brother, Curtis, who was instrumental in bringing hand games back to our community. And watching it grow has been really, really satisfying, I think, to a lot of us that have been involved with the society in our community, because in that first event in 2018, we barely had enough for one team of local players here based out of Fort Nelson. And then the following year in 2019, I think we had 3 or 4 from Fort Nelson, and it just continues to grow. And there's a lot of youth now, like Logan, who the tournament is in honor of, that have taken to the game and that really look forward to any time we're able to put on an event. And we try to do it as frequently as possible, because really that momentum and being consistent with it is what I think we find a lot of value in terms of using Handgames as a mechanism to help youth struggling with mental health issues or anything like that. There's really a lot of benefit to bringing the game back, and yeah, so it hasn't been part of my life entirely for as long as I've been living here, but recently, as of 2018, it's been something that you're always thinking about it, and once you start playing and you get the game and you start meeting other people from different communities, it really takes on a life of its own. And I think a lot of hand game players can relate to that and why it's so impactful for us as a community here in Fort Nelson.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to make sure we talk about Logan again in just a few minutes, but a couple more questions about the game itself. I think you mentioned this already, the crowd and sort of getting energized. Is spectator sport. This sounds like this would be pretty fun to watch, especially as you said, there's taunting going on. It gets really competitive. This is something that people gather to watch happen too, I guess, eh?
Yeah, and a lot of that I think stems from just the power of the Dene drum. For us as a society, we went and purchased 12 of our own drums, and when you get 12 drummers going in beat and in tune with that Handgames chant, it really enlivens any room that we bring our drums in. It's a really unique drum. It's kind of unique to this part of the world, and for our people specifically, it has a really profound connection going back to when we were children in our mother's womb, that double beat of the heart. And it's really, really a powerful thing. And that drumming and the power of the drumming really energizes the players to really start moving on the mats and kind of showing off and taunting the other team. And there's a lot of high energy and intensity to it. And I think that's what makes it so compelling to watch as spectators and even as drummers, like you get in the moment when you're drumming alongside, like I say, 12, or sometimes in these bigger tournaments there's 20 or 30 drummers behind each team, and it really literally shakes the floor. And stuff like that, it's pretty unique to where we live here in Northeast BC and Dene territory.
One last question about the game itself. Is this something you can practice outside of like tournaments? Like you get together and you try to work out, how do you get better at, even though it's a game of chance, but how do you get better at maybe increasing your chance at getting it right, or taunting, or whatever it happens to be? Is this something you can practice?
Practice is key. And then I spoke to the consistency of just getting kids out and getting them on the mats and having them be comfortable on the mats. And really the best practice is through tournaments, but that's when you really get a lot of the energy from larger groups of drummers around each team, things like that. But we try to practice, at one point last year we were practicing 2 times a week before the lead up to our bigger tournament. But getting the youth on the mats as frequently as possible is really key, and I think should be really prioritized in our communities, because it can be intimidating, the game, when you're playing against communities from outside your own, and there's all that energy and intensity in the room. But the more practice you can do at home, even a tournament like this that's more grassroots, learning the game, learning the shots, all of that stuff happens in an event like this, and it just gives the youth more confidence going into bigger events down the road here in the future.
All right. Well, you've got a tournament coming up next week, and I want to say the 3rd. I may have the date wrong, and I apologize. But
February 3rd.
Oh, perfect. It's kind of doubling as a fundraiser for, I believe, Logan, as you've already mentioned. Tell us a bit about this person who is, I believe, unfortunately injured, and this is sort of helping support him and his family during this time, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, so Fort Nelson's a small community, and everybody kind of knows each other, if not directly through one another. And like I grew up with Logan's mother, who was a bit younger than me in school, but just really got to know Logan in the last couple of years because as a non-Indigenous person, he was brought out to some hand games tournaments and practices by some of his friends from the community. And before you knew it, like Logan had a drum in his hand and he had the beat and he had the drum and he had all the moves and he understood the game and took to it. And I think when we heard of his accident, a lot of us, the older group, like myself and my friend Jeffrey and my brother Curtis, were wondering what could be done to kind of support his family through this tragic event. And he's been away from the community since the accident in October, and he's continuing to recover. And obviously with that comes a lot of cost financially and just being away from home for his family. So there's been a few other events in town like bingos and things like that, but we really felt with Logan's love of hand games that doing something where his friends can come out and really kind of be there to support him from afar would be a really good thing to do. And we're able to get some facility use with the Chalo School, which we're really appreciative. And I think it'll be a great event. A lot of people are really looking forward to it. It's been a while since we've had a tournament, really since the summer. So I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of people behind Logan that'll show up to support this event.
And I do want to quickly say we've got just about a minute left here, Ryan. As I understand it, this hand games are traditionally something men would do, but this tournament coming up is supposed to be co-ed, isn't it?
Yeah, so traditionally all the stories are men. It was like a men's only game, but really until the 1970s it kind of transitioned to more co-ed and women started finding their place on the mats. And for this event, it's co-ed, so a mixed tournament. There's no age limit, which is kind of unique. So we're really encouraging anybody that wants to play or that is interested to come down. And even if you don't have a team, we'll find you a team. And that's what these smaller events are really about, is growing the game and getting everybody involved and just having that inclusivity is really, really what the community needs right now, I think.
Well, Ryan, I mean, we're mostly in Fort St. John, but if there's anyone here who wants more information, maybe interested in making the trip up to watch or be a part of the tournament, what can they do? How can they find out more?
Yeah, so we use our Facebook page. Generally, the Fort Nelson Hand Game Society on Facebook is where we share a lot of our information, but also really appreciative of you guys reaching out and being able to spread the word here in Treaty 8 territories. So, but find us on Facebook and you'll see a lot of updates there.
All right, Ryan.
And photos.
Wonderful. Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. We're going to have you on again very soon, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Deb. Masi Cho.
You're very welcome, Ryan. Sorry to cut you off there. That's Ryan Dickie, the president of the Fort Nelson Hand Games Society. We'll be right back to talk to Matt Troiano right after this on Moose Talks.
A Great Canadian Oil Change is back in Fort St. John with a brand new state-of-the-art facility. They offer oil changes in 15 minutes, tire rotations, and all regular maintenance needed for your vehicle, all of which can be done without having to leave your car and with no appointment. Whether it's a simple swap like changing a tail light or something a little more in-depth like changing your fuel filter, their expert technicians know how to keep your car on the road. The Great Canadian Oil Change, now open on the corner of Alaska Road and 101st Street. Convenient, trusted, expert care.
Cozy in the winter, cool in the summer.
Daryl, what are you singing about now?
My new heat pump. I love it. It's electric, it saves energy, and helps reduce my carbon footprint.
And it keeps you cozy in the winter?
Sure does. It also provides air conditioning, so it keeps me cool in the summer.
Right now, the BC government is offering rebates to help make the switch more affordable. Learn more at cleanbc.ca/betterhomes. A message from the Government of British Columbia.
Windows, window coverings, windshields. At Alpine Glass Windows and Doors, we do it all. Class up your room with powered smart blinds from Hunter Douglas, or come see our selection of Hunter Douglas roller shades, fabrics, and cellular shades. Need to update your windows and doors? Alpine Glass is your source for Geldwin and Plygem windows and doors. Plus, when it comes to windshield repairs and replacements, we handle ICBC claims for you. To learn more, visit alpinewindows.ca or give us a call at 250-785-6409.
The next Work BC Fort St. John Job Fair is coming to the Pomeroy Hotel and Conference Center. If you're looking to fill vacancies in your company, you have until January 28th to become an exhibitor by visiting fsjjobfair.ca or calling 250-787-7100. If you're searching for the next step in your career, join us at the Pomeroy Hotel and Conference Center on February 8th from noon until 6 p.m. Bring your resume and talk to dozens of businesses about what they can offer you.
The Work BC Fort St. John Job Fair is brought to you by Streamflow Industries Limited. For more information, visit fsjjobfair.ca.
One of Canada's most electrifying entertainers and British Columbia's very own Aaron Burchett is bringing his new Liquored Up tour to the Oventive Events Center on Saturday, February 10th. Get you and your friends together for a rockin' Saturday night with special guests Matt Lang and Corey Marks. Tickets on sale now at lakeviewtix.com or by calling the Lakeview Tix box office at 250-782-7443.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dub Craig. Now, I had a chance to sit down with Fort St. John Fire Department Deputy Chief Matt Troiano recently. We talked a bit about some of the calls they were seeing during the extreme weather event we had earlier this month. It got really cold, and they were pretty busy. As it turns out, they were really busy last year as well. So we talked a bit about that, and of course, looking forward to 2024. So I was very happy to talk to, again, Fort St. John Fire Department Deputy Chief Matt Troiano yesterday. Here's that conversation. Matt Troiano, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with 2023. We're actually just having a technical to other years. I know, Jordan, if you'll let me run the board for a second here, I think I can figure out what the problem is. What was it like for the Fort St. John Fire Department?
Yeah, so for 2023, we responded to over 2,000 incidents for over the period of years. So comparing that to previous years, that's about twice as much as far as call volume goes. So yeah, we were pretty busy with a variety of calls, and it's increased across the board.
Mm-hmm. Is there sort of a theme or a pattern you're seeing that explains why there was just so many more calls last year, or is it something extra that's maybe typically been covered by some other organization or whatnot that you're now responding to that maybe you weren't before?
Yeah, so at the beginning of 2023, the fire department began responding to more time-sensitive or life-threatening medical calls. So that has played a significant increase in our call volume. The feedback that we've received from that, and it's overwhelming that it's a positive thing that we're doing. So that would attribute to some of the increase that we've seen in 2023 to previous years. But in general, across the board, fires, brush fires, especially with last year, we're seeing an increase. So it is all types of incidents.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to talk more about brush fires, I'm afraid, in just a bit looking ahead. But I really wanted to talk a bit about this cold snap we just came through. We've heard that your call volume went up kind of significantly during that time. Tell us a bit about that and some of the things you were responding to when the temperature was minus 30, minus 45, minus 50 with the wind chill.
Yeah, so extreme colds, they pose inherent risk to the community in general. And you can definitely see a blip in call volume increase when it does get to that degree of cold. So for an example, all of last January, we responded to in total 141 calls in 2023. And in this year, we still have a week left in January, and we're already surpassed that. We're at 157.
Wow.
So it does have an increase in the total calls. The types that you typically see, of course, you could imagine that there would be some medicals that would be associated with the cold weather and extreme cold response. But a lot of the sprinkler systems or systems that we have in commercial properties, they're wet systems. They have water in the pipes, and water freezes. So that can explain a lot of the calls that we get. It gets so cold, they freeze, and then when the temperatures kind of rebound a bit, it gives it an opportunity to thaw, and then you see those burst pipes that you've maybe seen in the news and are frequent around that time.
Okay, so it was actually a lot of commercial calls you're going for that sort of thing.
Well, typically, as far as sprinkler systems go, they are in commercial, they are in multi-residential, so apartment buildings. So when it does get to those those extreme lows, we can anticipate that an increase in those types of calls will be occurring, especially when the temperature does increase a little bit to allow the thaw to come out.
Now, is that something in the fire department in general? You kind of look ahead and you see what the forecast is bringing. You go, okay, this is what we're likely going to see an increase in call volume. And I don't know if you train up or kind of review your notes on what we're going to have to do when this sort of thing happens. Is that sort of something that you guys do? You try to prepare and see what the weather is going to be like, for example, and prepare accordingly, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can. The weather tells a lot of things about the types of calls that we're going to be responding to. So we do have a display in our operations section of the fire hall that outlines the forecast, outlines the humidity and everything, and we can anticipate, generally in the spring or in the summer when there'd be an increase in brush fires or wildfires types of thing. But when we're looking at extreme colds, there's definite review that we undertake. Our fire department members are extremely well trained. We spend a lot of time training to ensure that we're able to respond to these emergencies accordingly. So yeah, it would be, it's one of those things. Winter operations is seriously impacts the fireground operations. So every year we systematically review these types of operational decisions, operational guidelines to guide our decisions to make it so that we're able to effectively address these and mitigate these emergencies.
And what about traffic kind of related incidents? I know you're one of the first responders when stuff happens on a highway in a certain kind of area and in town and whatnot. Do you see an increase in that, or is that kind of par for the course, what we'd normally see during that time?
Well, you definitely see an increase or in call volume for motor vehicle incidents when the roads are slippery or icy.
Yeah.
That can kind of go without saying. But so our fire department responds up to road rescues or motor vehicle incidents up to the Sickany chief. So over 100 miles up the highway.
Yeah.
And with the increase of traffic that you see there with industry, we're headed up there quite often. Some things as far as implications with the cold weather that people need to be aware of is it takes time to get up to those incidents. So there's often times when you can be vulnerable to the extreme weather for a long period of time before emergency medical arrives to be able to help you, kind of thing. So yeah, back to your question or your comment there, we definitely see an increase or in those types of emergencies. It's all based off of the road conditions. So like I was saying, it's extreme cold there a little bit ago, and now it's going to get up to above freezing. That brings ice. So those things are absolutely consideration that we take to prepare for the shift, but also that we hope that the public considers to refrain from having to go out and do these things that are maybe more voluntary, as opposed to you have to go out and drive on those highways.
Now, as you know, the weather is very quickly shifting gears. We go from extreme, very cold. We've got a high of 11 degrees, I think, forecasted for Sunday. So what challenges does that present for the fire department? What sort of things are you looking at with the rapid weather change and as warm as it may get? How's that going to affect sort of things you may see in call volume or even just kind of your operation in general?
Yeah, I mean, with the we got a little bit of snow here. Definitely not enough snow to positively impact the drought that we're experiencing. But with the positive temperature, it's going to turn to slush, and then again with the overnight lows, we're going to be seeing ice. So the roads will be icy. They will be slick out there, and those are just things as far as us to consider. Likely there's going to be some car accidents, that kind of thing, but also additional safety precautions that we encourage our driver operators of our apparatus to, take your time. We need to make sure that we get to these incidents safely, because we can't help the public if we're not being safe on our way there. So we are taking those steps to ensure that we're able to do what we can to ensure that we're safe for everybody.
And one more thing, back to the cold weather for just a second, actually. Sure. Even directly impacting when you go to a scene, the trucks starting in cold weather, the water you're using to put out fires and whatnot. What kind of challenges did you face during cold weather in regards to that? Or did everything just kind of work pretty well, perfectly for you guys in that regard?
Well, machinery is not meant to work when it's
Yeah.
minus 40, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, for the most part, a well-known thing. But we're pretty unique up here in Fort St. John. There's not many places that have to deal with extreme heat and extreme cold in a given calendar year. So we see in the summer, we see plus 35, plus 40, which brings challenges all on its own. But then, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we see minus 40s. So for what we have to deal with, fire doesn't care if it's cold outside.
Yeah.
So it still happens. In fact, there's other things that kind of spur the frequency of fires in circumstances that increase with the cold outside. So yes, as far as water goes, we use lots of water, and we need to make sure that water doesn't freeze, because a frozen hose line does nothing. So that just adapts into our fireground operations, something that we train to and we're very much aware of leading into the winter season, to make it so that we can address those concerns before they become issues. But I mean, do what you can when you go from a 20-degree fire hall out into minus 40 with the truck. You're going to have issues with it, and you definitely see an increase in defects with those types of trucks.
All right, and I do want to look way ahead now. As you've already said, you kind of do a bit of forecasting. I mean, as dry as it's been, it certainly seems like we may have another challenging year for wildfires and whatnot. Whether they're going to be here or elsewhere, you never know for sure. But as a fire department, I know you're the City of Fort St. John Fire Department, but how does that affect sort of how you guys are training, what you're sort of preparing for? Even now, when you're thinking ahead to the summer, I mean, unless we get 50 feet of snow before then, it's going to be pretty dry up here again. And those brush fires you sort of mentioned last year that caused an increase of calls, I mean, we're likely going to see a lot more of that. So just talk a bit about looking ahead and preparing, I suppose, the department for that situation. And even if you have to, I guess, supporting, wildfire fighters who may be working close to the city and preparing for that.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the forecast goes, there's definitely people out there that are much smarter than I am that work for BC Wildfire that would be able to provide a fairly accurate indication as to what we're going to be facing in the spring. But what we can focus on internally as far as the City of Fort St. John, every year throughout the spring, we undergo extensive training, upkeep training for our members that kind of go systematically with the seasons. So once the snow starts to melt, we will be looking at continuing to do our wildfire type maintenance training. And that's great for responding to incidents around here, as well as for our regional neighbor partners like Charlie Lake and Taylor. We have a really good relationship, and we support each other when we are faced with those emergencies. But as we saw last year and what we've seen in previous years, the City of Fort St. John and Mayor and Council are very willing to be able to send our professional members out to help neighboring communities. We saw that we had a need up here in the region, in the Peace River Regional District last year, and we were. It's amazing to see all of these different cities and fire departments sending up trucks and personnel to be able to assist us with this, and it's special. It's nice for us to be able to return the favor. So we did last year. We were approved to send a truck down to help in West Kelowna when they were undergoing their wildfire season down there. So we prepare for it fairly consistently. There is a provincial need for deploying wildfire resources to assist. So we get ready for it, and then we're ready for if we get called into action, kind of thing. But first and foremost, our main priority and forever will be for the City of Fort St. John and the public conserving us here. So that's always of top consideration before we send anybody anywhere.
All right, Matt. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but I'm grateful that you took some time to chat with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
That was Matt Troiano, the Deputy Fire Chief with the City of Fort St. John Fire Department. We'll be right back to wrap things up on Moose Talks right after this.
A Great Canadian Oil Change is back in Fort St. John with a brand new state-of-the-art facility. They offer oil changes in 15 minutes, tire rotations, and all regular maintenance needed for your vehicle, all of which can be done without having to leave your car and with no appointment. Whether it's a simple swap like changing a tail light or something a little more in-depth like changing your fuel filter, their expert technicians know how to keep your car on the road. The Great Canadian Oil Change, now open on the corner of Alaska Road and 101st Street. Convenient, trusted, expert care.
Founded over 25 years ago, Alpha Training Solutions is a full-service safety training agency offering in-class training in Fort St. John as well as on-site training across BC. Training categories include
industrial training, H2S Alive, and fall protection. H2S Alive classes run twice a week, plus all of the forestry S courses such as S100 and S185.
Alpha Training Solutions. See them in their new facility on 99 Avenue in the HR Block building or register online at alpha-training.ca.
If you're looking for a peaceful place to escape, stop into Peaceful Pages. They're pleased to offer a quiet space for you to sit and read, catch up on some work, gather with a couple of friends, or even have Bible studies. Peaceful Pages Christian Bookstore on 101 Avenue in Fort St. John.
Moose Country weather.
Today, you can expect a high of 4 degrees and a mix of sun and clouds later tonight to partly cloudy. And tomorrow, high of 7 degrees, mix of sun and clouds. Sunday looks like a high of 9 degrees, but cloudy skies. And then on Monday, sunny skies and a high of 11.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
My thanks for our guests Ryan Dickie and Matt Troiano for joining us today. We want you to take our survey. We've designed a survey at energeticcity.ca for you to have your say and help shape the local news you see. The survey takes about 5 minutes of your time, and when you do it, you'll be automatically entered for a chance to win a Mr. Mike's gift card. Now, you've got the weekend to get over to energeticcity.ca/survey to do the survey and have a chance at that Mr. Mike's gift card right now. Well, that's our show for today. Jordan Prentice and Trey Lopashinsky are the producers of Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks.